Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to the 2019 Information Age Science and History Center Awards reception. And I'll tell you, it's a beautiful evening. We lucked out. I don't know how many of you have webbed feet, but I do right now, and I'm going to see my podiatrist on Monday. Now, what we do here in InfoAge, everything we do, we start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'm going to ask Sean Gleason. Sean is a retired Sergeant First Class, also retired at the New Jersey State Police. Sean and I served together in my last couple of years in the Army. He's an infantryman, paratrooper, expert infantryman's badge, and he spent some time in the Sinai. And I'd like to give it to Sean right now.
Thank you, Colonel. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And tonight when you go to bed, please say a little prayer for all the military we have on active duty, who are over there, and who have returned from overseas assignments. Now, what I'd like to do right now is just introduce some members of our Board of Trustees. Again, my name is Mike Ruane. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of InfoAge. They couldn't find anyone else to do the job. I'd like to introduce Tom Crowley, our Chairman. John Cervini, our Vice Chair. Over there. Please hold your applause. Their heads are big enough right now without it. Claire French, the Secretary. Now you can clap for Claire because she's special. Okay. We have Dr. Tom Settergren. Dr. Jules Belicio. Our lawyer, Richard Shackley, has done a very good job because none of us have been in jail in the past 4 months. Dan Lieb. Former board member, Barbara Ruane. And our newest board member, Dr. Michelle Diabundo. I'm just going to hit our special guest tonight. Our Wall of Honor honorees are Dr. Dave Usacek, sitting over here at table number 3. Andy D'Angelo, also at table number 3. Andy was one of the few people who believed in InfoAge concept in the beginning, and he was one of 3 people who was actually a charter member of the Board of Trustees in 1998, pardon me. And then the guy that brought the biggest family here is Herman Red. We have our Chairman's Award recipients. That's going to be VFW Chapter 1838, my chapter and Tom's chapter, sitting over there at the... And the Patriot Award recipient is Kim Guadagno, the former Lieutenant Governor. And she's presently the President and CEO of Fulfill. This is probably one of her most important jobs that she's had. With the Monmouth and Ocean, used to be the old Monmouth and Ocean County food banks. So serving the people again as usual, which she's done all her life. I'd also like to welcome George Nicholas, the Director of Environmental Services for New Jersey Natural Gas. I'm sorry, George, they stuck you behind a pole. You should have pushed them out of the way. New Jersey Natural Gas has been one of our staunchest suppliers, staunchest supporters and suppliers. Thank God for natural gas. We really have a problem over the years, and we really appreciate it. And I'd also like to welcome back some Wall of Honor recipients. Charlie Christensen. Charlie, where are you? I didn't see Willie Johnson. Is he here? Where are you, Willie? Okay, you're also behind the pole. Bob Dotto, RDA, and Henry Muller. I give Henry Muller an extra large round of applause because we're trying to suck him into being on the Board of Trustees in the next couple of years. Okay, so I think I've named almost half the crowd here. If anybody who wants to stand up and be recognized, please do it now. This way you won't feel slighted. Okay. The The way we normally start off, and those of you who have been here for a while, I normally give a state of InfoAge, what we've done in the past year, where we're going, and so forth. And I'd like to start off again that all in all, we've had a pretty good year since the last time we met here. One bad thing, and a lot of people have seen it on Facebook or emails, is that we had to cancel our best fundraiser, which is Camp Evans, the Base of Terror, CBOT. It just boiled down to that there was too much competition on the outside. The return on investment was really not good. Our volunteers were getting burned out. And it ate up a large part of our campus for 6 months. It really looked like a garbage dump because people didn't know that's what the Haunted Hotel was. You're literally walking through a garbage dump and getting scared to death. But when we first did it years ago in 2006, it was basically going to be an interim fundraiser just to help us until we could get a funding stream. So it's actually cut out 2 years earlier than I wanted it to, but we have methods and means in order to overcome the shortfall. This loss of funding has impacted our work on Broadway. That's the long hallway running down through the H buildings. We're about $12,000 short in completing it, but hopefully we're going to have the money by next year. Now, the good things. Thanks to our great landlord, Wall Township, we had a spring cleaning of our grounds where they took out 11 dumpsters of garbage. And if you've driven around our campus, now a lot of that was left over from CBOT. And if you've driven around our campus here, you'll see green lawns. We didn't even know there was grass down there in some places. Now we're going to get to work in the insides of our buildings, and we're laying on about another 10 or 12 dumpsters. We got a $20,000 grant from Akeley's and Bodman Foundation, and this allowed us to redo our website. And also, down at the Tyros building, down at the Diana site, we replaced all the old windows, had the place painted, and in our summer space exploration week, we're giving out 15 scholarships to financially stressed families in Asbury, Neptune, and Wall Townships. Now, the guys over here at table number 4 are happy about this, but Building 9010C, which is going to be the home of the Electronic Warfare Signals Intelligence Pavilion, is ready to be worked on. And they're already set up, and they're starting to work on it right now. So by the next time you come here, we're going to have a fully functioning EW SIGINT pavilion. Building 9010B and Ray Chase and the Radar Pavilion is next on the agenda. We installed 5 ADA ramps with a community development block grant that we in Wall Township went after. Now all of our museums, pavilions, and exhibits are ADA accessible, which is fantastic. And finally, on the campus side, we had a new plaque at ISEC given to us by the IEEE about a month ago, commemorating the detection of radar signals reflected from the moon on January 10th, 1946. It was the first time that radar signals penetrated the ionosphere from Earth to the moon and back, proving that you could communicate with an object in orbit. This was actually the success of the Army Signal Corps Project Diana can actually be considered the beginning of the space age. Now, in programs, Vintage Computer Federation that we have here had 800 attendees over 3 days in March. These people came from Poland. Some of these people came from Poland, Brazil, France, the Netherlands. And our best Christmas holiday train show ever, we had over 3,000 people at that. The Military Technology Museum continues to expand and enhance its exhibits with a another 3,000 square foot expansion highlighted by the Berlin airlift. Now we also have a new one over there with, let's say, life-size dummies of Churchill, Stalin, Hitler, Tojo. Now, if you want to get your picture taken, the only person we're missing is Roosevelt, and we're getting him made right now. So if you want to be with a couple of dictators and figure out with your friends and drive them a little bit nuts, you can do that over there also. And our 100th anniversary was of the signing of the armistice for World War I. We unveiled our World War I armistice exhibit right down the hallway. And one of the highlights of it was noted author Richard Connors with his new book called The Road to Armistice, 1918. And last on this part, we continue to host the St. Bernard Project. These are the folks who are continuing to work for the remediation and restoration of the shore following Hurricane Sandy, or Superstorm Sandy. A lot of people think it's over because it was 7 years ago. There's still a lot of people in dire distress, and we have over 500 volunteers so far this year who have come in to help them. And now the last thing I'm going to talk about is education. Our mission, if you look at our mission, it's education, children. Okay, we have lost so many technology jobs in Monmouth County over the past 10, 20 years, and this is where we're trying to restore some of that. Our members, our education committee, is pushing STEM like it's going out of style. Last year we had 1,800 students come here, from homeschoolers to students from Rensselaer Polytech Institute, to see what we had and to listen to our people. Tom Settergren and Jules Belicio established the Speakers Bureau with over 60 science, technology, and history subjects that we can take on the road or give here. And thanks to John Henry, one of our board members who isn't here tonight, we hosted the Central New Jersey Steam Tank Competition with over 1,600 students, teachers, and parents on one Saturday in March. You want to see this place go nuts with 1,600 people in it? And also in March, we had Kim Arcand, who is an imaging specialist for NASA's Chandrick X-ray Observatory, who spoke on how to color the universe in 2D and 3D. If you've ever seen those pictures on the internet of the beautiful, nebula in space, she's one of the ones that puts together various pictures, radio pictures, electronic pictures, whatever it might be, and is able to post them. And she also showed us a 3D, okay, this big, model of Cassiopeia, which was 11,000 light years away. We're trying to get something like that for our ISEC exhibits. And last but not least on this, a student intern program we have right now with Wall High School and also with Communications High School. Near future, if you're interested in how to eat in space, Frank O'Brien, who's sitting over there at the table, is going to show people how you eat in space next Sunday at 2 o'clock at the Diana site. We're also having a wine and cheese party on the 12th. Again, people will be able to talk to the moon. And then on the 20th, 21st, we're going to have a moon landing celebration. No, we have people who can talk to the moon even without drinking. I want just want to let you know that. You can hear it back, too, which is amazing. And then exhibits, we have an exhibit that's pretty near and dear to us. It's known as the New Jersey 9/11 Never Forgotten. And it's a tribute and learning center to all the first responders from New Jersey who answered the call at 9/11. We're going to be opening it up, probably a soft opening in the summer and a hard opening on 9/11. And we have artifacts, dioramas. We expect people to go in there, be sad when they're in there, come out angry so they never forget. And by this time next year, many of our exhibits will have touchscreen kiosks, something which we've been after for a long time. And thanks to a couple of grants from Manasquan Bank, we're able to do it. Okay, now a quick advertisement. All right. I'd like you to take a look at our silent auction, the stuff we have over there. We have items of immense sentimental value, okay, to someone. I mean, seriously, when people dropped them off this morning, they cried. Some of them tears of sadness, some tears of joy. And the rest of the items, you look over there, they fell off a truck in Hoboken last night. And really, we appreciate your donations. Gloria and I are going to be taking the proceeds. We're going to be heading down to AC tomorrow to hit the sports bet. We understand with a couple of good bets we can place. But seriously, every penny we get goes right back into this place. And many of you know that, and many of you contributed to it in the past, and we appreciate it. And to my left, against the far wall on the radiator covers, is our new veteran tile program. This is special. Many places you go, you want to honor someone, they give you a brick. So you put it on the ground, you put 3 words on it or 3 lines on it, and people walk on it. All of a sudden after a period of time, it gets all messed up. We're looking at something a little different. We're taking ceramic 8x10 tiles, full color, anything you want to put on it, pictures, words, medals, a uniform, an individual, a friend, family member, it doesn't make a difference. You tell us what you want, and we will prepare a tile for you, and it's going to go on Broadway, down between our museum exhibits, our museums. And again, it's going to be covered. It's going to be on a national, good Lord, I just forgot the words. Would you believe that? That doesn't happen often, Claire. National Historic Landmark. Okay, we got that one. But it's going to be there, so you know it's going to be there as long as we're alive anyway. So again, just think about that. And now a special thank you I want to put out to Gloria Kudrick, my wonderful right hand, and also my second mother, probably third wife. I'll tell you, I get... a few of us were involved in setting this place up, for tonight and getting everything involved. But she was the one who put all this together, from cleaning and waxing the floors here and in the lounge, to setting up the tables, by setting up the tables, I'm talking about literally rolling the tables out and setting them up, tablecloths, place settings, chairs, everything along those lines. And she made the centerpieces, and she also did the hors d'oeuvres you see, the crackers and the cheese and et cetera that's in the center of your table. Please join me in giving her a well-deserved round of applause. And now, as Porky Pig used to say, that's all, folks. Please enjoy your dinner, and we'll continue with the program during dessert. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm John Cervini. I'm the Vice Chairman of the Board of Trustees here at InfoAge, and welcome everybody. Now we start the formal part of our proceedings. We're going to honor, have 3 honorees for the Wall of Honor, and then we have the President's Award and the Patriots Award to give. So this is quite an evening. Now the first person we're going to honor tonight is Mr. Andy D'Angelo. Okay. So I'm just going to say a few words for each of them and throw in maybe a couple of quick anecdotes because we had, years ago, we had a scenario where a person introduced another the winner, and the person who doing the introduction was 1 hour. Honest. And the person accepting the award was another hour. And we had... we had people that couldn't handle it. Okay, so now if you all have a program, and in the program are the biographies of each of our winners here. Now, if you read Andy's biography, it states that he served, among other things, and each of these gentlemen have done a lot of different things, but I'm going to focus on key areas that really had a lot to do with Camp Evans. So Andy served as Program Executive Officer for Intelligence and Electronic Warfare Systems for the U.S. Army, where he provided executive direction for all Army IEW programs, reporting directly to the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Acquisition, Logistics, and Technology. So now you say, okay, what's a Program Executive Officer? They have a one-liner for that, which doesn't tell you much. It says a Program Executive Officer, or PEO, and that's what we call them, right, PEOs, is one of a very few key individuals in the United States military acquisition process. So each of the services has a PEO, has PEOs. So the Army had things like aviation, PEO aviation, soldier, artillery, air defense, and they ended up creating something called IEW, okay? So what happens is the word key doesn't do it justice to the position or the people who occupied the PEO position. Now, at that time in the Army, finally came to the realization, okay, that sensors on the battlefield were critical components in order to meet or achieve military success. Okay, and as you see later on, we'll be honoring two other individuals who were instrumental in the successful fielding of what we call the incredible battlefield automated systems, each of which made a big difference to the United States Army. Okay, the thing about IEW and sensors is that it sort of subsumed, in a way, all the other PEOs, because PEO Aviation found out they needed sensors, okay? And a number of people in this room have worked in the area of aircraft survivability. Sensors are extremely important on fixed-wing aircraft and on helicopters. Artillery, okay, the artillery people, one of the big programs here, Firefinder, counter-mortar, counter-battery, okay? You can fire at the enemy, okay, or the enemy can fire at us, but if we have radar, we can track that shell, know where it's going to land, instantly know where it's launched from, and counter it. Very, very important, very important. So now the Army sort of lumped all of these sensors, okay, things that were not communications, really. That was another part of Fort Monmouth, under the purview of PEO IEWS. I guess that's a fair statement, don't you think? All right. So radar, electronic warfare, which included things like jamming, intercept, and direction finding, wideband data links, okay? Who knows that? We'll talk about something called guardrail after. The interesting part about PEO, IEW, and us that the rest of the Army didn't realize until later is that you're going to have to move massive amounts of data. What you need is bandwidth. What you need to deal with the threat is higher frequencies. Now, today you're here in the commercial region, everything is 5G, right? You talk about 5G for communications. If you look at some of the details of 5G, you have frequencies that get up into what we call KU band, KA band in the radar. So that's up at 16 gigahertz, 35 gigahertz. Well, 20-some-odd years ago, the RDEC, where Henry Muller et al. Worked, and in the PEO, we were working at those frequency bands long ago in non-communications, okay? And here we are today in the same area. In navigational aids also. When you think about it, what happens if you don't have GPS? Everything today depends on GPS, okay? If you look at your smartphone, okay, and you look at maps, or you're on the road, you want to see traffic, okay, it determines where you are, so it can determine where everybody else is. PEO, IEW, and S has to worry about protecting GPS, or self-location, or what do you do if you don't have GPS? These are phenomenal technologies that went across all other PEOs within the Army. So now, all of the areas required tremendous processing capabilities, and many required what we call real-time results. Just a little anecdote, just to tell you how important some of this stuff does. Nixon administration, okay? Henry Kissinger says to the president, you know, we can surround the Soviet Union. You know, we've got Western Europe, we have bases in Turkey. If we made buddies with Mao Zedong, we can surround them on this side. Great idea. So everybody starts schmoozing, and over a series of years, we come to an agreement with communist China. Okay, we already had Taiwan in our purview. So somebody in the State Department asked communist China defense people, what is it you need? Quid pro quo. They said, we want Firefinder. Now, can you imagine that? They didn't want anything else. They wanted Firefinder, the counter-mortar, counter-battery system developed here at Camp Evans. So the way it works is State Department said something to the documentation to the Department of the Army for what we call FMS, Foreign Military Sales. The Army personnel which meant the engineers down here at this level and at Camp Evans have to evaluate it. So you can imagine. Mao Zedong? Firefinder? No way. Okay? Those are some of the words they used, yes. So that information is sent up through DOD. They stamp it, they send it to the State Department. No way. The State Department overrules Department of Defense. So TPQ-37, which was the counter-artillery, longer range, okay, 2 of them are pulled off the line, which were to go to Fort Sill, and they're sent to Beijing because the State Department wanted it. And that's how important some of the systems were here. That's a story very few people know about, but if you Google it, you will find out. The other thing I wanted to say is I always remember this, Andy, I don't know if you do. AOC, we have a lot of representatives here from AOC. We had a picnic, and this is going back a ways. They just had cell phones, okay? There. So now Andy was invited to go to this picnic. I don't know if you remember this. I think it was over at Deal Road. So you can tell how far back we're going here. So Andy shows up with the cell phone. He's got this thing. It looks like a cut-in-half battery case with a phone on top and this big strap, okay? And you walk around like this. And that was a portable phone then, okay? And they told him if he went to the picnic, he had to carry this around. And everybody said, what is that? We've come a long way since then. And in our Vintage Computer Federation exhibit, phenomenal exhibit that Evan Koblenz has put together. On the wall, he's got all these equipments and electronics that were developed, from room-sized computers to to calculators to this, that, next thing. And he says, every one of these devices is now in here. And if you go listen to Frank O'Brien, okay, he'll compare this to the Apollo computer he's got there that took astronauts to the moon and back. Significantly less powerful than this. So the point of all this was, where does the Army find the right guy with great leadership skills, an excellent understanding of technology to lead the charge? And the Army found him. The individual who blazed the technical path for his successors. And if you Google PEO IEWNS today, you can't believe the functionality that now the PEO is responsible for in the Army. Okay. Now, Fred Carl was supposed to give the intro here, and here's another thing. You would think, despite all that stuff, great stuff, all right, that he did. Andy did a lot of things, but we honor him also for another thing. When this place was going to be turned over to Wall Township, we formed a 501c3 nonprofit called InfoAge. To become a legitimate organization, we had to have legitimate people at top in the initial paperwork. So the 3 original founders were, well, 2 of them were Fred Carl and the late Larry Torme, and we needed a 3rd person for adult supervision and somebody who knew big picture kinds of things and had the respect of many, many people. And Mr. Andy D'Angelo, who had no doubts whatsoever and stepped up right away to answer the mail and became our 3rd founder and signed those corporate papers for our existence. And that's why we're here today. Okay, it helped save Camp Evans from developers. We're now a National Historic Landmark based on especially all the Army radar work. Thanks in great part to this gentleman. Will you please welcome Mr. Andy D'Angelo. This is the big plaque. Oh, you have to know that the big plaques go on the wall, but the family gets another smaller plaque. Let's turn this way so we can get a picture.
Good video. Good. Now, there's not much more I can say because John covered pretty much my POIW career and what I did here to get InfoAge started. And it was a tricky start, and I really give credit to Fred Carl. He's the one that called me and said, what do you think? Think we could do something like this? I had a lot of commitment to this place. I worked here for 8 years, right down the hall. I spent an office there. In fact, I walked by the men's room, and I walked in there and said, God, I probably used this place 2,000 times, right? So there's a little nostalgia in this building for me. And we go a long way, and there's a lot of people in this room. So if I want to give credit for what we did, particularly with firefighter, Charlie Christensen sitting back there, I guess I was kind of the leader. Charlie was the brains. And we had a big success with that program right here in this building. Firefinder was born and developed into, I think, probably a premier weapon system, at least for its time. We talked about China. Very few people know that Israel, and I personally went over to Israel to help cite them, put Firefinder Q-37s on the Lebanese border back in the early 90s or late 80s, I even forget when. But so we've done a lot right out of here in the Evans area. And, again, John took my thunder away. But I'm proud of being selected as an honoree here. I was proud of being able to help start this organization. I'm proud of what it's become, and I give credit to Mike. We were floundering a little bit. Claire French here? Oh, there you are. So when we really started, there was 3 or 4 of us, 5 at the meeting. Claire was always there, right? And then when I deserted in about 05, 06, whenever, Mike just kept driving this train, and he drove it and drove it and drove it. And we're here, and I remember the rehabilitation of this room, right, was Mike's pride and joy, right? I walked into what had been my conference room. If you look at it's still, Charlie, look at it. Conference, partly says conference room. That was our conference room for decades. So there's a lot of history here. Firefinder was born here, and then eventually, as PEO, a lot of my programs moved down here. So PM Radar was here, Joint Stars was across the road, PM EW was down the road a piece. So we kind of took over most of the Evans area. And when it was closed, it was a heartbreak for me and for a lot of people. I'll just give one little story and I'll end it. So I was about 10 years old. And I pick up a copy of the Daily Mirror, and on it, and Mike has these, right, is a picture of Diana radar, and radar bounces off the moon from Camp Evans in New Jersey. And I thought that was great. I was 10 years old. I never thought for a minute that I'd end up down here, right? And I did. And as a radar guy, believe it or not, I took that. So I had to make a trip to Israel. And part of when you do this is you have to hand out things to people. So I went and I found that Daily Mirror when we had the history office here at Fort Monmouth at the time. I had copies of it made. I had them put into plaques. And we went to Israel and started handing them out at every conference we had. And there's an original of it sitting up in Mike's office. And for those of you who want to buy some, we made a whole bunch of copies, and they're sitting out there for sale. And so that was my first. I didn't even know anything about Camp Evans. All I knew is that a radar bounced something off the moon. So I still say I go back to 1946 with this place. Right? So anyway, thanks again, everybody. I appreciate being honored. It's been a great evening. John, thank you. Mike, thank you. Claire, thank you for. I know you've been from the beginning. You probably kept Fred calling you the longest, because you were there before Mike.
Yes.
Well, so am I.
She joined when she was 11 years old.
So am I. Yeah. So, hey, thanks, everybody. I really appreciate it.
I'd like to also thank Andy for making the trip from North Carolina, right? Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay. That's a good start, huh? Our next awardee, the Herminator. Herman Red, whom I know for a very long time. Now, again, go back to the bio sketches that we have in there. So Herman has a tremendous amount of experience in the area of intelligence and electronic warfare, as is obvious from his bio sketch. But I just wanted to point out a little trivia embedded in his bio. Okay, See, top secret SCI clearance goes along with this kind of work. We neglected to mention that. This is very, very high clearance that you can get. And you can tell Intel programs by the name that's given to the program. See, a lot of people don't know that. Intel programs have two names. So if you come to our EW display and we show you a lot historically the aircraft that were involved in Intel from Korean War on down to the present, you see names like Crazy Cat, Seafly Lancer, Sea Firm Leader, Laughing Eagle, Grizzly Hunter. How's that, huh? And even today, Vigilant Eagle, which I think is actually ground-based, but Vigilant Eagle. And those are all cool names. Now, if you want to know what any of them were about, Herman will be around after this, the formal part of this, and he'll tell you, except he'll only be able to tell you about the declassified portions of those programs. His technical experience is really significant if you look at what's listed in the bio sketch. And I find it remarkable that he then worked tirelessly on the grandest Intel program in the Army, Guardrail, for 45 years. Now, we've got a few pictures there, and we have a picture. Take the time later to look at the Guardrail implementation. That was a painting done on behalf by Northrop Grumman Corporation through Herman's auspices for the 40th anniversary. So I can't figure out how he was able to work 45 years on that particular program. Okay, and by the way, Guardrail, one or two words? It's only one. That was interesting. That was to fool the spies, I think. Now, what is Guardrail? Guardrail is the Army's premier signal intelligence airborne system that has been providing critical aerial intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, that capability for over 45 years. And I think you were there for all of them. Okay. It was originally built as a Cold War system to provide indications and warnings against adversaries, both in the European and Pacific theaters of operation. Here's an interesting thing. The original company, and Herman was affiliated with it, called ESL. Okay, and the president of ESL was Dr. William Perry, who became Secretary of Defense in the Clinton administration. So there's a lot of respect from that. There's just a little anecdote. If you look at the Guardrail program, it was modified and added to significantly through the 45 years in capability. The Army was going through this mindset of do more with less. So dramatically increased the functionality of that program, which is a difficult thing to do. So that's why you ended up with different aircraft on it, added capabilities. Started off with what we call comment, communications intelligence. Then they added the ELINT to it, electronic intelligence, interceptive non-communication, especially radar. So now it became SIGINT, okay? And so now it comes time to go out to buy something called Guardrail Common Sensor, additional capabilities, direction finding, location, and all of that. So what happens is this. The Army goes through this, and a lot of guys who were at Fort Monmouth understand it. And I think it was going to be a multiple source solicitation for some of it. You go out, or at least an RFP, a request for a proposal, goes out and says, here are the requirements. This is what I want to buy. So we end up giving an award to either ESL or TRW, who bought out ESL, or Northrop Grumman, who bought out TRW, and Herman worked for all of them. He didn't tell you he's got 14 pensions. So everything is great. They've got this wonderful contract for Guardrail, whichever version, improved Guardrail, Guardrail Common Sensor, and then this company comes in and files a protest. Okay? And I forget the name of the company. But you can tell that whoever was their person for didn't read the RFP because this company, and they said in their response had 40 years of experience building guardrails for the Jersey Turnpike and the Garden State Parkway. True story. True story. So it is no coincidence then that everyone calls Herman Redd Mr. Guardrail, including military officers, high-level Army civilians, managers at Fortune 100 defense contractors, especially as well as his peers. Now, you have to understand this. There was a Department of Defense study, okay, and this is what they had to say about the Guardrail program. Thank you, Herman. The historical development of the Guardrail program represented one of the most successful defense systems developed during the last third of the 20th century. Those are big words. Please welcome Herman Redd.
Good evening, everyone, and John does a wonderful job of introducing people, and very knowledgeable guy too. Really good, yeah. Thank.
You're going to have to talk into it.
Oh, okay.
Move the mic up for you.
Okay, there we go.
Take it out.
Yep. Okay. No, I think I'll leave it there. But sound all right now? Good. Okay. Good. Well, thanks again, everyone. This is a wonderful award, and first off, I'd like to just thank my wife, Carol Redd, and the Redd family because they paid a price for the success of Guardrail. I was gone quite a bit, and they held things together. They were encouraging and always there. So I am really, really thankful, and they deserve a lot of the credit. The other part is that I was lucky to have some wonderful tech folks and program folks along with me, and we became a family. And there is one guardrailer here. She wasn't there in '73, but she should have. So that's Michelle Shapiro. Michelle, and she's another dedicated. So the guardrail people have really been a bunch of really good, dedicated people, and so I'm very, very proud to be able to look to them as a part of why I'm being honored this evening. The other thing is that this is a very, very special occasion for me because in 1963, I started work here at Evans across the way, and actually about where the guardrail or where the new Intel facility is going in. So it was like just grand because I worked in Port Authority, New York, doing telephone systems, like a sweatshop. So, you punch a clock going in, you punch coming out, you punch for lunch, and you punch for breaks. So anyway, so when you get a call to come down for an interview down here, and you never know, Fort Mountain's a big place, so you never know exactly where you're going to end up. But I was very fortunate that I interviewed down at Evans in the EW laboratory, and so it was like I died and went to heaven because instead of being in this huge room with desks, wall-to-wall desk, and the supervisor sitting in the back on a platform. And, if you wanted to take a break, you'd take your newspaper and everything, go take a break, but get back to your cubicle and everything. So, coming here, first thing was, you get an office and a window. And you look outside, and there are little animals running around out there, and everything. So it was really an amazing transformation. But starting here, and this is home, has always been home for me, the Evans area. The second part of what I want to give you is that in 1970, I worked on several programs and things, but the main program is in '73. NSA had developed a system called Guardrail, and NSA is very talented people, good engineers, but they like to build things. They like to develop things, and so they did an outstanding job with the Guardrail concept. And they'll build it real quick and put it out in the field and say, okay, Army, we did it for you. Here, you guys, run it and keep it going. And that was always the problem part is what they built was generally not very supportable. So the Army had to then try to figure out how to keep it going. So in 1973, they decided to transfer the whole thing from the NSA to the Army. And I was lucky, Pierre. I was lucky enough to be the project engineer for the transition of Guardrail from NSA to the Army. And that was, but they sent along a couple of good guys to help us out. And so for a couple of years, in how we wanted to build the Guardrail, keeping the same concept. The concept was that you don't fly everybody on the airplane. The concept was you got a pilot and co-pilot on an airplane. And our job, and their job is just to fly the airplane where you want them to fly it. And the airplane itself had all the equipment in it that had a data link, had a link from the ground to the air. One link was telling the equipment what to do. The other link was bringing back the information in real time to operators on the ground. That was very simple, but complex as it was. So the first Guardrail was the guys who flew airplanes was the RU-21. They were on oxygen, and the airplanes weren't heated very well. So the biggest complaint when we started figuring out what we're going to do next was to go talk to the operators in the field that had Guardrails and get from them what it is, what could we do to make it better, keeping the same concept. And so we went around the world and got good information from them, came back, and basically implemented as much as we could. And so we put good heaters in the airplane, so they didn't have to carry muffins and all that. So that was one. But basically, we cleaned up the airplane. The first Guardrails looked like porcupines. It had antennas all over it. So the first thing we did was we had some smart antenna people, and they figured out how to take all those antennas off the airplane and put it on little wing tanks. And it looks like fuel tanks, but they were really antennas, which worked very well. And so it cleaned up and streamlined the Guardrail. And so we had a QRC. The little story about the QRC. Guardrail and the transition and everything there was Admiral Guyler and an Army general, Ambrose, I think, but two four-star generals, two four-star admiral, and they signed a letter that they wanted this thing to be done fast, and so we had very little problem initially doing Guardrail because when anybody would ask who authorized you to do that or anything, we just give them a copy of this 8-star letter and say, if you got a problem, go see these two guys, So everybody just got out of the way. I mean, it went from top to bottom, and we had no problem executing the initial Guardrail, and it worked out well. So we did a QRC. We got the first 4 systems out real quick, and fairly quick, but everything worked well. We had some problems. Everybody has problems, so that was. And the other thing about Guardrail is that the first one, it was always a learning lesson. We learned from NSA and their developments, and we didn't try to restart or start all over again. We took the good parts from that, and we added the good parts of technology as it moved on. And so each time we did an iteration on Guardrail, it just kept getting better. We'd had a slip up along the way. I won't tell you about but it kept getting better. So what I'll say is that the Guardrail of 1973, 75 era and the Guardrail of today, now Guardrail is still out there. It is still, like John said, the premier aerial reconnaissance spy systems for you guys who like spy. But it's DoD's premier system. It does more. It does it better than any other system out there. It typically will fly with 2 airplanes or 3, depending on how the fineness of the location stuff and other stuff that you want. But there's no other system out there that will do what it does. It's a core system. It's not, but it supports the tactical commander. So it supports the people that want to know what's happening on the battlefield, and it supports the people that want help in figuring out where to shoot at things. So but we're probably now, and you kind of lose track a little bit, but the guardrail system now has pressurized, so it's like VIP airplanes with Army pilots and with equipment in it. And the data links get bigger. John was talking about and it goes over satellites now. So it's all kinds of jazzy things that's happened. But it supports the warfighter all over the world. It can do it in country. It can do it in sanctuary back here or in other places. So it's still supporting the Army. It's still out there. The Army has made some attempts to replace it. They've all failed. Or, I don't know, I shouldn't say that, should I? And Andy, he was one of my bosses along the way. He's POIEW. We were under POIEW, so a good guy. We always got good support out of but we're now on whatever iteration we are, but the guardrail system is projected to be out there until 2025 and beyond. And so I have said enough. Thank you so much for the award and everything, and thank you for being here. And thanks a lot, John. You did a great job.
Thank you, Herman. Just remember, you got the big plaques. We have to trade them in for the smaller plaques so we can put the big ones up on the wall. And so is everybody familiar with a QRC? Quick reaction capability. Okay? And what that means is that a compelling and urgent need has been directed from the field somewhere to deal with a new threat. And one of the great things that has been done at Camp Evans and Fort Monmouth was meeting the threat. Okay. Our last honoree for Wall of Honor today is, it's a real honor for me to present it to Dave Usacek. Did they spell your name right in the program? Oh, okay.
John, we just kept putting
Okay. Now, I'm just going to read a few things from here. Dave joined the avionics laboratory at Fort Monmouth, where he worked on, and he really did, complex navigational technical issues, including designing flight control systems for helicopters and fixed-wing aircraft. You know, Dave made this tremendous transition, okay, to a system, one of the biggest systems down here, along with Guardrail and Firefinder, called Joint Stars, okay? It was an outgrowth of another radar program that the Army had developed here, which was on a helicopter, okay? And he joined in 1982, the program manager for Joint Surveillance Target Attack Radar System, Joint STARS, as the chief software lead, okay? And I'll just read a few other things here. And go ahead. He's promoted chief engineer for the Army portion of the Joint Stars, where he oversaw the completion of the ground station module, which is the predecessor to the tactical ground station. Now, every successful program in Department of Defense, a la Guardrail, a la Firefinder, a la Joint Stars, one of the key reasons, I think, for success is that there are a couple of people, government people, technical people, normally engineers, who the contractor can talk to, is comfortable with, and trusts. and has the technical expertise to understand that when problems evolve, you can deal with them. Now, you have to understand, Joint Stars was an incredibly huge system. Now, we have Guardrail, okay, and you can see a Beechcraft. Right now, it's a Beechcraft 350, something like that. The Joint Stars ended up on a RC 130. What was that? Thank you. Right. It's the equivalent of a 707 in the Air Force. Okay. Now it ended up being a joint program because the Air Force had the platform, but the Army initially developed and scaled the sensor from previous work that was done here. Now, I can't tell you. So every program like that, to be successful, has to have a go-to guy, is what I like to call him. The main man, okay? When there's a problem, you turn around. And in this case, it was call Dave. Okay, call Dave. And the sacrifice that people like Dave had to make for this, and he can get into it if he wants to, is immense. Herman alluded to it. When you have to go to places, you have to go to the Middle East, you have to go to Korea, you have to go to Germany, you have to do this in December or August or whatever. You have to deal with all these other people in the Army. And something that's so sophisticated and so huge, like Joint Stars was, is a phenomenal thing to do. So now, in 1986, people now learned Dave is the go-to guy. Promoted to project manager for Joint Stars and led the highly successful deployment of the entire set of 7 ground support modules, including the Air Force's portion of Joint Stars, so Desert Shield and Desert Storm. Now, I invite everybody afterwards to take a look at the poster that's up there that it shows you some of the details of the Joint Stars system and its results. The culmination of which was, if you remember, at the end of the first Gulf War, it was Joint Stars that mapped out all those ground targets of fleeing Iraqi vehicles on the ground that was given to the rest of the Air Force and ultimately obliterated on the ground. And there's a famous picture that was in all the newspapers of all those targets leaving on the highways. And that was all due to the capability of the Joint Stars and the technical expertise of Mr. Dave Usacek. Please welcome Dave Usacek.
All right, first off, I am really happy to accept this award. Words can't describe it. I'm really humbled to be included with all the prior people and the current folks that have been nominated and received this award. Now, a little bit about Joint Stars. Yeah, John took some thunder. Take a look on the board over there. You'll see it. In particular, pay attention to the lower left-hand, I guess, picture, if you want, lack of a better descriptor. That tells it all. Okay. Now, one other thing about the operation before we left this country to go to Desert Storm, or actually it was Desert Shield, I guess. The Army G2 said to me, because color printers were just coming out, and he says to me, "Do you have a color printer in those ground stations?" I go, "No, sir." "Put one in there." I go, "Okay, will do." The question is, where am I going to put this printer? Because it's on an everything is packed into an S-280 shelter. Now, for those guys here that worked in EW and whatnot, we know what an S-280 shelter is. It's 8 feet by 8 feet by 8 feet. And we packed 2 workstations with 2 bodies in there and all the computers and everything else. There's not much room, okay? So where am I going to put this damn color printer? I put it on the floor and told the soldiers, don't step on it. All right? Then the next question is, are they going to really use this color printer? Or printers, because we sent 7 ground stations. Oh, by the way, those ground stations, they came off the assembly line in Scottsdale, Arizona. We never turned them on. We didn't know if they worked. We put them on the flatbed trucks and shipped them to Melbourne, Florida. Why? To hook up to the airplane, because we didn't know if the damn airplane worked. So the airplane is flying at night. The radar's radaring, for you radar guys. Okay. I profess not to be a radar guy. All right. I'm a computer geek. All right. You heard the yeah, that thing doesn't work unless the software's working. Okay. Same like with your cell phone. The software in your cell phone doesn't work, throw the damn thing out. Okay. So we get to Melbourne and we hook up the ground stations. The Air Force, because this is a joint program, they take off. And they have more engineers on that airplane than Carter has liver pills, okay? Because, I mean, there was Band-Aids, there were everything holding. That's how, I mean, it was dicey with that radar, okay? And, of course, everyone's saying, hey, you damn Army guys down here on the ground, you probably are not going to work. We're going to make this work. I go, hey, guys, we're in this together. We're going to make it work together. Well, guess what? We turned everything on, and the son of a gun worked. Okay, so the airplane's flying. See, we're on the east coast of Florida, so we're flying up and down at midnight to 3 in the morning because we have to land before 3 because the airport shuts down. Okay? And if any of you know about Florida, there's the Beeline. We were watching traffic on the Beeline. So with Joint Stars, fundamentally, anything that moves above a minimum velocity or below a maximum, I got you. Okay, so if you walk across the road, I got you. You can't move, I got you. I know where you're at. Now, you take guardrail can cue me, okay, because of what they have in sensors. You talk about sensors. They cue me up right there. That's where the bad guy is. Pick up the phone, figuratively speaking, call the artillery, steel on target, rounds on the way, or airplane on the way. And we proved it during Desert Storm. We could put steel on target within minutes, not hours. Okay, the system's still in the field today, and it's still doing its thing. Now, the Army's portion of the program was mounted in a 5-ton truck. You know what it's like to move a 5-ton truck around? Not easy. Okay, but we did it, okay, because that's the only thing we had. Today, it's in a Humvee. You know, you guys that drive around in Humvees, that's what we got it in. You can thank technology for putting it in a big vise, so to speak, and squeezing it down. But the fundamental concept and mission has not changed. Okay? And we are worldwide. And I got to thank the guys on the team here. We worked across the way, made it all possible. So, thank you all.
My name's Tom Crowley. I'm the chairman of InfoAge, and I'd like to thank you all for coming on behalf of the almost 20,000 people who come through here on an annual basis. It's very heavy with students and educators, and if you've ever walked around our facility, what you will see is that the common thread for all these various museums is STEM. Science, technology, engineering, and math. Having said that, when I first got involved some years ago, as Mike described, this place as a complete catastrophe, which it was, I said, I don't know how this is going to work. And the volunteers have made this work. And in my mind, I always thought this was something like basic science, applied science, tactical to practical. So John talked about what's in the Vintage Computer Museum, all of the devices that individuals had at one time that are now captured in your cell phone. So our educational mission is what really unites us. And while we have a military history here, where the World War II living history, World War I history is here, World War II history is here, Korea, Vietnam, all these technologies, our purpose really is about the future. It's about the children that come through here. We are pleased to honor a civic group that is close to my heart and close to Mike's. So the Chairman's Award this year is awarded to veterans of foreign wars, post number 1838 out of Manasquan. And why would we select these people? Well, among other things, they're the heroes among you. Most of them are very quiet. If you were to come over to the post in Manasquan, and it's in a suburban neighborhood, it would be hard to find. You might find some 20-year-old war on terror veteran. You might also find some World War II veterans who are in their mid-90s. The mission of the VFW is about taking care of veterans, and that's not a selfish mission. There is another component about that, which is part of the education. So let me give you a few facts about what I've learned in my couple of years involved there. First of all, VFW 1838 has supported InfoAge on numerous occasions. We originated a Veterans Appreciation event here a couple of years ago. It's now gotten bigger, and it's going to be next Saturday in Seagirt at the New Jersey National Guard Training Center. I'd encourage you all to come out. Docents have been provided for some of our museums. If you go back to one of the outbuildings here, we have about 80 vintage military vehicles, and people who have hands-on experience with that equipment are there. I think the reason that the members of 1838 are being awarded this Chairman's Award has a lot to do with their outreach to communities. So some of the things that the Post does include school programs. There are a couple of programs that are scholarship programs. There are essays that the students can write and win scholarships. The Voice of Democracy, the Patriot's Pen. I'd encourage you to learn more about those. The Post sends veterans off to the various schools so that students get an opportunity to meet real live veterans. I may be wrong on the numbers, but I'm told that there's something like 1% of the population is served. These people are out there, and they are doing a wonderful job as ambassadors of the other veterans that are there. The Post serves the local community, Manasquan, Brielle, Belmar, almost 400 members. As I said, the ages range from early 20s probably up to mid-90s. And they host and sponsor veterans events. For example, on November 9th, or November 2nd, I believe, there will be a hospital luncheon. Next Saturday is the Veterans Appreciation. December 7th is the Pearl Harbor Memorial. The Post supports memorial events like Memorial Day and the 4th of July with parades and with speakers. I'd like to ask Sean Gleason, who's the Senior Vice Commander, to come up and accept this award on behalf of InfoAge and on behalf of Post 1838 And I'd like for him to share with you a couple of stories that I think would just convince you why this group of veterans have been selected for this honor. So Sean Gleason is the Senior Vice Commander. Rob Bucklew is the Junior Vice Commander. My friend Bill Rooney here is just a really good supporter, but he's a retired colonel. And Randy Lind is a war on terror veteran. And so when you hear about the technology that's been developed here, these are war fighters. These are people who have been the beneficiaries of the science that went on here. But at the end of the day, it's not about the past, it's about the future, and I think that's why they're here.
Thank you, Colonel. On behalf of post-1838 Manasquan, thank you, appreciate that. We accept this with great humility. Both our organizations share a common goal, and that common goal is that our military history be not forgotten. And InfoAge does a wonderful job with that, from our ACOGs and our red dot sights on our rifles, to the flat screen TV, to SDI, and all the other things. Am I allowed to say SDI without getting shot? Okay, because it was here. And the space program and all the other stuff that happened here. It's amazing. And the people and the intellect that walk through these halls since 1910, when you think about it, it's overwhelming. And we should never, never forget about it. We've done some past joint ventures, and we're going to do several joint ventures in the future. And we're proud to be a part of this team. We are now the fastest growing post and the most active post in the state of New Jersey, post 1838. The post-World War II paradigm was a VFW post in every community, because we had millions that served and came home and erected a VFW post in every corner. That paradigm has shifted and ended, and now VFW posts are constricting, dimitting, and dropping out and losing ranks. That's not the case with Manasquan. We are Southern Monmouth County's post. When posts demit, like Belmar, unfortunately, and others, they come and join our ranks. So the VFW will survive in the future being regional. So Manasquan, we're probably going to change our name. And I'm from Manasquan and went to the high school, and I'm going to vote for it too. I know it's sacrilegious. But we should probably change our name. And maybe we should name it after one of these engineers and scientists and physicists here that helped us get back alive from the battlefield. We'll talk about that later. But we are Southern Monmouth County's post. It's a place where veterans go to not be alone. It's a place where veterans go sometimes to share some pain. And like a pizza, everyone takes a slice and walks away. That alone is enough, but we do much more. We raise money to give it away to veterans. We've helped homeless veterans from World War II, most recently, from Korea and Vietnam. We take them to the hospital, the VA hospital in East Orange. We've bought them efficiency apartments, rented them efficiency apartments until they can get permanent housing. We raise money to give it away to veterans. Veterans come to us sometimes in the low parts of their lives, and we help bring them up to the higher parts of their life and their future. Finally, I want to say that the combat veterans to my left here, and that's encompassing Vietnam, Grenada, Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Iraq, Afghanistan. Randy, were you in Panama too? At Panama, Bosnia, Honduras, El Salvador, right? We stand here today, perhaps because we've benefited from these doctors in this room and engineers and physicists and what they did for us, and we may not even known the technology we used to fix and find the enemy on the battlefield. And the four of us might be alive here today because of people like you. And we thank you very much. We'll never forget any one of you. And God bless you. And God bless InfoAge and what you do.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Claire French, and I have the privilege of living about a half a mile from this site for over 60 years. 60 years where we wondered what went on in this campus. All we knew was it's a secret. And you kept the secret very well. And when I got involved with the base closure coordinator, our friend Mike here, and Fort Monmouth was closing, Fred, Carl, and Mike, and Tom, and our board said the story has to be told. And it was like an onion that was being peeled, and each peel was another story about something fantastic that happened here. And I would like to personally congratulate the honorees tonight, because you're peeling off another level of that onion of a story that needs to be told. And God bless all of you. Now, tonight, I'm very privileged to be introducing to you tonight the Patriot honoree for InfoAge. Last year was our first year giving an award in this category for someone that has contributed above and beyond for community, for our state, and for country, and for every one of us. And the logical second person after Chris Smith, our congressman, is Kim Guadagno. And I've known her for quite a while. I'd like to tell you a few things about her before she comes up here and grabs this microphone from me. Because if you know her and you've ever heard her speak, as you start to tell nice things about her, she has no patience with it whatsoever, and she goes, cut, cut, cut. But please give me a moment, Kim. Kim Guadagno's dad was a wonderful attorney, lawyer, and a federal prosecutor, Chuck McFadden. I like her to always use that name because I'm an Irishman, and she's at least half an Irishman, right? At least half an Irishman. 51% an Irish woman. I met her when she was running for office, really in the county, but before that, she had been U.S. Attorney's Office where she went after the big bad guys. And she got the big bad guys. And she got a reputation for her respect for the rule of law. And she lived in a little town, Monmouth Beach, here in Monmouth County. And she looked around her town, and she's trying to raise 3 young boys, and she's got her hands full. But she saw some things that needed correcting in her town. And she couldn't sit still for it, and she started getting active. She ran and won by big numbers as a councilwoman, and really learned what it's like to care about people and to show them you care, because everybody needs someone to talk to if they have a problem with government. She, because of her background with law enforcement, she got a chance to run for sheriff in Monmouth County. Now, I had a sheriff's officer in my office, and he said to me, "A woman running for sheriff? What have we come to in Monmouth County? It can never happen. There are 600 of us in the department, and we can't work for a woman." Well, that very same officer, I'd say I gave him about 3 months, and he came to me and said, "Boy, was I wrong. She has our back. She has her back like no other sheriff did." 600 men and women worked for her. And believe me, they were loyal to her because she was loyal to them, and she walked in their footsteps every day. She received the Pro Patriot Award for employer support for the Guard and for the Reserves. She ran for lieutenant governor and won 2 times with big numbers. And when she did, I can tell you she took the job so seriously. When Sandy came, and certainly all of us that live in this area know what a terrible tragedy that was, and it took us so long to recover from it. I was county clerk, and I had to run elections, and the polls had washed away, and we needed help. People needed to vote. It was a presidential election. We need to get voters a place to vote. And if you looked at just regulations, which I know everyone here that's worked here knows regulations are there, she couldn't have done anything. However, she got a little creative, and she created a directive that she sent to all of us clerks, and it said that if anyone wants to vote in any poll, in any town in the state of New Jersey, let them vote. They can at least vote at the top of the ticket. In a year like that, especially, everyone, this is their most precious opportunity to choose leaders. Some people said, you're going to get sued. You can't do that. She didn't wait to find out if you could get sued. She just said, go ahead and do it. And I guess none of those lawsuits actually came around, didn't they, Kim? No. I also worked with her. We both were candidates the same year, and she won in big numbers because of who she is and what she did. And when Sandy came, I saw her in action visiting with small business, not just speaking to a group of 100 people, but caring enough to knock on the door of somebody that has a little jewelry store in Avon to say, I know that you lost everything. Are we doing what we should for you? And she'd bring commissioners with her and backup, so that if there's something this little business needed that wasn't getting done in government, she saw to it that day. There were all kinds of heroes, and during that storm and after it, you were a hero to so many of those people, and they will never forget it. I'd like to say also I'm very proud to be on the 200 Club with Kim. She's our president this year. And the 200 Club, we honor first responders that have gone above and beyond the call of duty. And it could be any area of law enforcement, firemen, any kind of first responders. And matter of fact, we just honored quite a few officers on the law a couple of weeks ago. And in a couple of weeks, she's going to be giving almost $100,000 in scholarships to children of first responders, something that she works hard all year to raise the money to make that money possible. Now, she's taken the time from being a partner in Cooney Foley, which is a very important law firm. I'm sure I couldn't afford an hour with them. Because she's had an opportunity to do something close to home. There is a health issue in her family, and she wants to be closer to home. Good for us, because she's taken over as president and CEO of Fulfill, the former food bank. So tonight, she's, I'm sure, still wondering how she's going to get the money and the food to feed 175 Monmouth and Ocean County neighbors, including senior citizens and veterans, and 40,000 children. That's her job today. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you our Patriot Award honoree, Kim Guadagno. Tom, come on, Tom.
I'm going to hold this, ladies and gentlemen, because it weighs about 35 pounds. And the glass thing falls off, but it basically says Kim Guadagno, the Honorable Kim Guadagno, J.D., Patriot, presented by InfoAge Science History Museum, June 22nd, 2019.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll take this back.
So I'm only going to be about an hour and a half. So, no, I'm going to keep it very, very short. And when people say that, you should be alerted already that that's a lie. I am a recovering politician, and so I can say things now that I wasn't able to say before. And everything you want to know about my 8 years with my former boss is true. Think about it. And that's all I'm going to say. You'll just have to draw your own conclusions. Andy, Herman, David, you humble us all. I'll never forget getting an honorary degree from NJIT, standing next to a real-life rocket scientist. And when I got my degree, I said to him, "This so cheapens your degree." Because you really are the real deal. I am kind of a stand-in. I am the product, I think, of all of the hard work of what goes on at the VFWs. I am the product of what you all have built over the years. And I'm proud to be here. I'm proud to say thank you, Michael. We've been friends forever. I'm especially proud to be a friend of Claire French's. And all of you know that Claire French has been the longest-serving county clerk that Monmouth County has seen. She has also that unique ability of telling you no with a smile on her face, so that you don't even know she has said no until you're halfway out the door and down the hall. And many people in politics could learn and should learn that lesson. Anyway, I want to thank all of you here at InfoAge for what you do every day and what you have done. My son flies an F-16. He will be assigned the F-35 in February of this year. He is currently in South Korea. But for what you have done, I am absolutely positive he would not be able to be living the dream that he is now living. So as much as the VFW represents the people that we honor who have served, I want to say thank you for saving the life every day of my firstborn son. I also want to end with, yes, thank you. And I'm going to end with the purpose of InfoAge, right? For those of you that don't know, there are more scientists and engineers per square mile in New Jersey than any place else in the world. I want to say that again. There are more scientists and engineers in New Jersey per square mile than any place else in the world. And I know that is true for all of you naysayers, because the Star Ledger fact-checked it when I said it the first time. And I got a thumbs up on that one. And we want to stay that way. We are the innovation state. There will be a child who comes through this museum who will be shocked and amazed to see what you have all done. He will be, or she will be, shocked and amazed, quite frankly, to see the gender and the color of the skin of what the people have done here. You set the bar very high for them, but you give them hope, imagination, and we will give them the ability to innovate. So thank you very much. I humbly accept this. I really don't belong up here, but I do thank you for what you've done, for what InfoAge does, and for what we're going to see in the future in sparking that imagination for that little girl, that little girl. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the night.
Well, that wraps up this year's 2019 awards reception. I'd just like you to remember, we're talking about the mission, and the mission of InfoAge is very simple. Preserve, educate, and honor scientific innovation to inspire new generations of thinkers, dreamers, and visionaries. That is our purpose, that is our mission, and our vision is our parking lot full of yellow school buses. So we want to thank you for being here. You are the folks that support us. We really appreciate it. Thank you for coming out. Sit back and relax and enjoy. And if you got to go out, as I said, we have the, are we finished with that, Dan?
We'll call it 50.
Okay. Okay, they're going to call it 50-50 when I'm done. And I want to tell you, now, do you have your parking tickets? Hey, we're in here for every buck we can get, folks, I want to tell you. Okay, parking is only $7.50 for the first hour and $1.50 each hour after that. Folks, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Be well, be safe. God love you all, and I hope to see you again here next year. Thank you.